Dear listeners, I have a couple of gifts for you here at the beginning of this episode. But first, I'm stoked to share that today's guest on the project will also be one of the speakers at the upcoming virtual event that I'm hosting, titled Rise and Revitalize, an online gathering to enliven and embrace the wild bloom of becoming, which is happening on May 31st. This gathering will also feature Georgia Peck, last episode's guest, along with Azra Bertrand and Zoe Kian, each of whom has also been on the project. This event is an opportunity to receive wild wisdom and seasonal insights to support your bloom into summer. Together we'll explore how to nourish soma, soul, and story, creatively composting with community to cultivate fertile ground for renewal, reflection, and vibrant revitalization. After each talk, we'll open the floor for questions and conversation, inviting connection and collective insight. As a special thank you to the community of Wild Heart Revival, I've created an exclusive promo code just for you. So you can use WHR25, all caps, at checkout to save 25% on your ticket. And if you can't attend live, don't worry. Each ticket purchase includes access to the full replay, allowing you to engage with the insights and wisdom at your own pace. It could also make a meaningful gift for someone you love, so consider that. For more details about the event and the speakers, including the topics they'll be exploring in their talks, check out the Eventbrite page, which is linked in the show notes. This summer, I'm embarking on a big overland journey from Guatemala to Canada with 2 adopted dogs, one of whom I rescued from the streets of Guatemala. To support this adventure and help cover the costs, I'm also offering my counseling services at 25% off until I leave in mid-June. This discount applies to any of my counseling packages, and you're welcome to start working with me whenever feels right, whether that's right away or further down the road. I'll be working while traveling, and I'll be here to walk alongside you no matter where I am along the journey. I'm a threshold counselor with an online practice devoted to supporting wanderers, wanderers, and edgewalkers. I offer individual, couples, and group counsel, as well as guidance around death and dying. If you're curious to learn more, you can visit my website, linked in the show notes, for in-depth details. I've also included a link to an Instagram post on my Coyote Counsel page, which features testimonials from past and current clients, so you can get a sense of the impact this work has had for others. I also offer free insight calls, risk-free opportunities where we can connect, explore our alignment, and see if we're a good fit to walk alongside each other during a pivotal chapter of your life. If you feel called, please reach out at any time. And if you haven't yet, I want to also invite you to subscribe to Wild Heart Revival on your favorite podcast platforms, and consider joining us on YouTube as well to tune into the video component of the project. Your likes, comments, ratings, and shares on any of the platforms are deeply appreciated, and they play an essential role in supporting the organic growth of this humble project. Now, let's tune in to today's conversation. Welcome to Wild Heart Revival, a gathering place for heartfelt conversations and stories as pathways of renewal and revival. I'm your host, Tay Tayari, and today's guest is Bodhi Shola. In this episode, Bodhi joins us to explore the essence of artistry and beauty, sharing how creativity emerges from a deep presence with life. Reflecting on her own journey, Bodhi discusses discovering beauty in imperfection and embracing it as a transformative force of nature. Together we delve into the artist's responsibility to engage in a living, dynamic dialogue with the wild world, the interplay of creation and destruction, the power of ritual, and the regenerative reciprocal nature of what it means to be an artist of life. Bodhi Shola is a multidisciplinary artist exploring interconnected living through photography, ritual, and nature-based practices. Her work nurtures harmony between human and non-human realms, drawing on elemental consciousness, plant wisdom, and meditative experience to create dreamlike imagery and sacred storytelling. As Bodhi says in this episode, art is the ability to be present, observe, sense, feel, and be fully there. Now, let's reconnect with our natural artistry, orienting toward beauty and embracing the gift of life together with our dear guest for today, Bodhi Shola. So Oscar Wilde, he says, humility in the artist is her frank acceptance of all experiences, just as love in the artist is simply that sense of beauty that reveals to the world its body and its soul. And Thomas More says that care of the soul requires craft, skill, attention, and art. Care of the soul requires craft, skill, attention, and art. To live with a high degree of artfulness means to attend to the small things, the particulars that keep the soul engaged in whatever we are doing. And it is the very heart of soul making. From some grand overview of life, it may seem that only the big events are ultimately important, but to the soul, the most minute details and the most ordinary activities carried out with mindfulness and heart and art have an effect far beyond their apparent insignificance. So what do those words stimulate for you?
Thank you. I love all of that. Really, it's a beautiful choice of quotes and words. And to me, it inspires to think about art as an observation, really. Like if you think, okay, what is art? Art is the ability to be present, observe, sense, feel, be fully there. Like it's just the place where your body is filled of everything, as we were saying. It's just filled of all the love, it's filled of all the presence, it's filled of all the beauty. And the beauty is, like going into the quotes you shared, it's really everywhere. And what I love is sometimes to really explore the beauty in the cracks and all the things that are imperfect or that but are perfectly imperfect and that are non-obvious or non-luxurious, it's like the beauty in everything. And I think the artist is someone just who observes and is able to see and feel and sense and transform that and give it back. It's not that the artist is doing anything. I don't think a real artist is really doing something. It's just the ability to be present and give it back to others so that others can also be like, wow, okay, I enjoy this or I don't enjoy it. I'm just present with it too, and I'm learning from it too. Because for me, the greatest artist is life, is nature. So we're not doing anything. It's already done. It's already there. It's already glorious. And so it's just the ability to be present with that magic, that play, that beauty. And I don't know, I have something for beauty being in all the contrasts and the polarities and the opposites and in that space in between and just digging into, like you were saying, the little things and observing the things that are off place and why they're there and how can we relate to them. And so I think really the beauty is in the eye of the observer. And so the artist is that ultimate observer being a mirror for society, being a mirror for. Also, I think the only thing is the artist should be in a context and should know that he or she or they are in a context. So they are aware of what is happening within the spectrum of society and what is happening in that contemporary era and why is something important to be seen or not. So yes, seeing the beauty, perceiving the beauty, being the beauty, but also being aware of what is happening around you and where you are and where you're rooted and what you're giving back and why that being a mirror is so important.
So beautifully said. Thank you for all of that. I had so many different images and ideas and thoughts arise through your share. Yeah, I'm reminded of a quote. I forget who it is, but she said something like, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And I hear that in what you're saying, and I'd like to tease it out a little bit, because the way I'm feeling into it and thinking of it in this moment is, I'm also thinking of a quote by Patrick Rothfuss where he says, perhaps it is beauty to move according to your nature, you know? And I'm thinking of this inherent draw that I would hope that most people have, that when you see an incredible landscape or a wild animal out in nature, and it's that moment where you are totally captivated, where you are taken, where you have to just stop and observe, like you said, to behold the beauty of the naturalness of that movement of that creature or that landscape. And I'm thinking, that quote about how the artist makes the revolution irresistible, because there's like this, it's like our ability to apprehend and appreciate beauty seems to come or be connected to this openness that one has to the power of things to stimulate the heart and stir the soul, so to say. It's the aliveness, it's the organic, natural beingness, the thingness of a thing that captivates us, that causes us to stop in our tracks for a moment and behold the beauty of that thing. And so in that way, this idea of life being your art, that we are all, I would say, we are all artists of life. And actually, that was something that really fundamentally changed my life. I came across Toltec philosophy, and the idea, one of the core fundaments of Toltec philosophy is just that. You are the artist of life. You're the artist of your life. Make your life art. And so in that way, by becoming who you are, by becoming and belonging to your own inherent beauty, by living into your uniqueness as fully as you can, that you then become irresistible, because you're moving according to your own nature. We can't help but see you and appreciate the emanation of the naturalness of your movement, your beauty, your art of life. And so then it stirs us, it motivates us, it draws us deeper into ourselves and into our souls and into the soul of the world, I think. Which then you can't help but align yourself with more life affirmative action. Did that all make sense? I'm kind of just jamming and riffing on all these different threads that arose for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a topic that stirs so many things. And so it's like so vast and huge, and I would love to say a lot of things, but I want to give back a question as well, and it's, can we see beauty in everything? Are we able to perceive the beauty in everything? Like literally the whole spectrum of it. So really being able to stay with the beauty that is even in that space where you're like, oh, this doesn't fit, I don't want it there, I don't like it.
Right.
And kind of looking into it and leaning into it and really embracing it and really loving it and really understanding its place and really understanding why it's there and how it's co-creating with what you might have as a beauty ideal. So to really understand all of this, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying, so everyone and everything has a special beauty, everything has a uniqueness, everything has something special to tell you. So can you see the beauty in all of it? Not only in one aspect, but like the whole big spectrum of life, and how each and every part is so inspiring and sublime and rich and has so much to tell and has a whole story by itself. And the ability to listen to the stories and being able to retell the stories with beauty. And as you were saying, that it's about making it more compelling. And I was listening yesterday to a conversation where they were saying, the idea of awakening is like at the beginning, especially like spiritual awakening, as we call it. We say, sometimes we make this story of like, oh, this spiritual awakening, now I'm going to awake and everything is going to be like pretty. And I feel like a little bit is like the same with beauty, is like, can you make people more awake and more present and more aware and conscious, and kind of lure them into it, but also make them accept the broad spectrum of it, because it's not only flowers. So and I want to really dig into it, because for me beauty, oh my god, I see beauty in a trash can, and I can't. And for me it's the same like a landscape, because as much as the mountain gives me this sense of like sublime, and I mean, nature is just a place where your heart stops. It's just like you're there and it's immense, it's incredible, it's everything for me. It's like when I stand in front of certain places, I'm like, I think this is absolutely paradise. But then also to stand in front of the destruction and the places, the parts of life that are like almost making me angry and making me want to, I don't know, they make me unease, uncomfortable. So how can I stay and find the beauty in them too, so that it can fuel maybe even more my awareness towards what I want to protect and what I want to nurture and what I want to see more of. So to kind of understand that polarity and that spectrum and what it means to be conscious of beauty in a way.
Yeah. It's so fascinating, this topic. So I'm living on the edge of Mayan town, Sutujil Mayan town, on the shores of Lago Atitlán in Guatemala. And there is a major garbage problem here, all through Guatemala, a lot through most of Central America and just the world in general. But bringing it back to this town, I'm lucky to live in this like literal sanctuary on the edge of the town amidst ancient trees, and it's so magical and beautiful. And when I step out of the few acres that is this property, and I go onto the road and I start to go into other areas and into the town, it's just mind-bending how much garbage there is just strewn throughout everywhere. And so I agree with what you're saying, and I also want to tease it apart and look at it from a few different angles. When I come across certain things that might be that might even elicit like a disgust response, especially in nature, I can still sense the beauty in it, right? And however, I struggle with walking out onto the street and seeing the garbage everywhere and sensing the beauty of it. So when you said you think the garbage can is beautiful, I'm not disagreeing. I think that I could in a moment see some kind of beauty in it. But let me, like I said, tease this apart a little bit. So and I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on this. There's something about an animate worldview, like seeing all things as being alive, as having soul. And then the spectrum, where on the other end there's inanimacy. And I would say lots of the world today is somewhere in the middle, right? We give animacy to certain things, and then there's inanimate objects, right? The thing is that inanimate objects, we tend to see them as either being useful or not useful. And as soon as they become not useful, then we don't care about them on a whole, right? And so when I see the garbage out here, it's plastic bottles, it's old chip bags, it's all these things that at some point were actually useful, but now they're not. And now they're just thrown about and there's no care. The soul has been ripped out of these items, these things. And so I wonder, is beauty, is it, you said it's in the eye of the beholder. So is it my responsibility and opportunity to infuse the garbage-laden street with beauty through my perception? And if I do, what happens? Is it my opportunity and responsibility to ensoul those items, those things that have been left, that have not been given a proper burial, that aren't respected and cared for, that aren't seen as being alive and animate and worthy, that aren't useful? Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I mean, I don't want to go into saying that I love seeing trash cans all around and have
Yeah.
So I
don't
will
think it
make
like
a disclaimer about that. It's not what I mean.
Mhm.
But what I mean is, like, as you were saying, you know, maybe if I can notice it without just disgusting myself with it. And as you know, you're going into this reflection of saying, oh, this had a life before and we're tossing it, wasting it, we're just using it as we please, and then we send it back into, you know, whatever, into the environment because I don't care. So maybe when you look at it and you observe it and you stay with it, you say, okay, what, as an artist, like, you could either get into creating something out of it that it's going to bring awareness. So you could use that trash to make art somehow, and to kind of bring people more consciousness. So I work through photography. So for me, it would be more like, can I make it into something that is going to inspire people to pay more attention? So I think, like, there is the part where responsibility comes in. So I'm not saying I love it. No, I'm saying it triggers my own responsibility in the sense of really my ability to respond to it, my ability to enter a dialogue with whatever I have in front of me so that I can give it back in a way that is creating something for society or for culture at large. So I am taking whatever I have in front of me and I'm giving it a new sense so that I might inspire others to understand what is happening here, and to inspire them to be more conscious of this. And I think even that object that you think you have tossed and you have, you know, you say, oh, I don't need it anymore because it's waste. You have created it in a way. Someone has created it. Someone has given life to this object. It's not just inanimate in a form. whether or not we see it as disposable, it's part of a creation. So it's like, why don't we see it as part of creation as well? So why do we take out the responsibility? And so like, how do we weave into the responsibility again? And in that sense, I think that both spectrums are important, because if I show people only the things that I love and only the things that I like, oh yes, you know, I'm in awe with trees and I would love to do only that. But I think, and I can see it even in my practice sometimes, like, where do I fall into just what I like, and how do I get more into a responsibility to educate and conversate and dialogue and make it into something that is not only about me. So I kind of like self-sacrifice my own wish for beauty in order to give back something that might be of a dialogue for the greater whole. So that's maybe a topic that we need to address right now. So how can I self-sacrifice my aesthetic sense or my wish for perfection or harmony in a way that it brings attention to also the responsibility that I have for life.
Yeah, beautifully said. I learned recently that the word response, and so that base word of responsibility, that there's a closely related word in ancient Greek that actually means to pour libations at the feet of the gods. And I'm thinking about this Mayan town. And of course, before colonization, these people were polytheistic. They were much more attuned to an animate worldview, that there were many gods, that the place was alive with flows and forces and energies that they were unseen, but that were cared for and tended to. And now, although I think there's still some animate sensibility in the folks here, there is a very dominant Christian monotheistic religiosity here. And I'm just wondering about that. Like, when you funnel your perception of the world into some kind of monotheistic a funnel, monotheistic funnel, where there's like there's one God, there's one way, there's one mode of perception, essentially, then you're cutting yourself off to the diversity, to the polytheistic relationality of place. And so then it becomes, I think, maybe much easier, that's not the right word, it becomes much more available to just not honor the place you're in by tending to it and caring for it, because it's not alive in the way that it used to be, right? And especially Christianity, there's a sense that this is just kind of like intermediary until you get to the real lasting salvation, right? Till you get to the real life, right? But in polytheistic orientations, it's like, no, everything here is alive. This is the life. This is the stage of life. And everything carries meaning. And so there's this natural, I think, honoring of place, that there's this sense that, well, if the gods are alive all around us, then we better take care of this place. There's a soul here, right? So, yeah, I don't know if I have a question through that, but just a reflection that I can see how that shift in perception would actually take a fundamental toll on people's capacity to tend to beauty and to see the living art of place and people too, more than human people as well, you know?
I think it's so of value to go back to dialogue. So to go back to dialogue, meaning when we have only one God, there is only one place and there is only one road and there is only, it's almost like a monologue. So it becomes something where it's just one channel. And I definitely think that to bring back the anima, the soul, into the world, it's really about recreating a dialogue with all of these different gods, as we want to call them, or just all of these, as I would see them, all these different fragments of the divine, all these different beautiful aspects of the divine. And so to have a dialogue with all of those parts and to be able to weave into connection with all of those parts. And so that's kind of what I'm feeling, like how also it's about active listening and observing and being in place. And yes, it's a process. I also want to just shout out to the fact that it's not something that goes from one day to another. It's something that takes the time to create a relationship, and takes the time to create a relationship with space, with the human, with the non-human. Especially with the non-human, there is also, a recreation of trust with landscapes, with territories, with trees, with plants, with rocks, and to really give yourself time and permission to not rush into it, and to really be able to open to that, and that rationality. And I think that's how we bring back God into everything, as in just saying it's not outside, it's just the fragments are everywhere. All of it is divine. And so even then also the things we don't like, we kind of bring them back into, I just want to go back to that sense of responsibility of creation, because it is a form of creation. And so life is creation and destruction, and we want to learn how to be in balance with that, and how to not be too much on one side or too much on the other, or taking the space of one another, but to really be aware of where you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it, and bringing really consciousness about each and every step and relationship and the processes that bring you to create that dialogue.
There's this old idea that the soul has this innate need for what is called vacatio, or vacation, that the soul needs consistent vacations from ordinary life. And this is interesting because before we started recording, I talked about how beauty can be arresting. I was talking about your art, how I felt arrested by your art, in the sense that I had to stop and just like, what's happening here? And I related it to driving past a mountain valley or something, and that feeling of like, I need to pull over and just stop. That there's this rupture that beauty performs in our lives, that takes us out of this kind of linear, progressive sense that we tend to carry. And it's interesting because we're talking about life as art, being an artist of life. And in that, I have this sense when I think of that each moment's an opportunity for art and to apprehend and participate in beauty. But this old idea that the soul needs to actually be like vacated from the ordinariness of life, and that beauty performs that beauty does that for us in certain moments. It's interesting, right? So how do you understand that in your life? Like when you, because of course being an artist, as we're saying, I assume that a lot of your life is oriented toward tending art participating, creating, and yet there seems to be this need to actually have like moments of rupture, to be taken out of the ordinary. How does that show up in your life?
I love that. It's very rich. It's a very rich question, and I want to start by saying that to that rupture of beauty, I can also call it love. It's like, it's like falling in love. It's like those moments of awe, of like, your heart opens, and so it's a constant moment of, oh, I'm in love. I'm in love with this. I'm in love with this moment. And love has the ability to break you and hold you and change you and just move you into place again. And I think so I actually want to have like short parentheses of like, I used to work with between art and fashion. So my practice at the beginning was quite different from what it is now. So it has evolved during the years. And what I enjoy of how it changed is really that I felt the need to make it into a ritual. And so it means that each and every time I work, it's a ceremony. Each and every time there is a time of preparation. There is a time of really like, it's like entering a temple or entering a sacred space. So there is a time where you have to purify your senses and you're preparing for it. And then you're gathering resources in a way. And then you're moving into it and you have this moment of free flow of creativity and learning from what you're engaging with. And then again, you have the moment of integration and you come back and you sit with it and then you explore it further and you understand what it has taught you. And this can be it can be on many different scales. And I mean it really in the ordinary, because for me, it's something where some ways of working could be really just like right now, it's like a very example of what is happening right now. So I have a shooting tomorrow because tomorrow is Beltane and it's the 1st of May and it's a Celtic celebration that celebrates the passage into summer, and it's a rite to honor the fire. And so I always try to be very respectful of those rites of passage. And so for me, my way of being respectful with it is also creating art. And the way I'm currently engaging in it is that I'm preparing by looking at the season around me and what is alive in nature. So what kind of flowers, what kind of plants, what is happening in the nature around me? And then I start engaging with the plants, and literally for me, it's like going into the garden and putting my feet on the ground and saying, okay, what is happening here? And so, for example, for tomorrow, it's gonna be just engaging with the flowers and the plants and the beauty that is from the garden in this season. And then it's going to be about gathering all that, making an altar, making an offering, making a ceremony, making it into a ritual, and then taking the time to shoot it and work with it and learn from it. And so it's all of these kind of elements coming together to be brought as a sort of offering. And this is more of a longer process, could we say. But it could be also just in the moment, and I'm talking because I'm doing photography, but it could be also just that when I go into a landscape and I'm struck by awe or by beauty or by inspiration, I always engage into it with asking for permission and trying to, even if I'm like, I want it to be, it's like this moment, I always wait a second, I engage, I ask, I learn, I breathe, I sit there, I'm like, okay, what is happening here? So I think for me, it's very important, this aspect of ritual and of relationship and of understanding where I'm at, in order to be fully conscious of the beauty. Because beauty is something we cultivate. It's not something, and you know, when something comes out and you think, oh, this is beautiful, it's a cultivation. It's something you nurture. It's something you constantly appreciate and our interaction with, and our, yeah, it's something that it's really a process. And I don't know if that got really far from your question, but it's like how I feel with it, and how, yeah, it's just like very important for me, and it goes into the ordinary. And then I have moments like right now, I'm having a moment where I need to take distance, and I'm like, I need to have a month where I don't see any of this. I need to take a month where I'm taking care of my body, I'm taking care of my channel, I'm taking care of my inspiration. I need to, and I think that's so important, because then you have a moment where you stay in that void and you just understand what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's also writing and drawing and understanding before even going into the doing. It's really, so yeah, there's a lot of engagement, a lot of nurturing, a lot of cultivating, a lot of listening. And sometimes what's the best part is that sometimes I ask for permission to maybe the, you know, the spirit guides from the lands, or I ask for permission to the flowers, and they say no. And I respect that. And I respect there are moments when actually you should leave the sacred to the sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also important to understand that.
Yeah.
Or like there are moments where you just step away.
Mm-hmm.
You don't take the beauty. You observe it and you don't make anything with it. You just leave it where it is.
Yes. Wow, that's such many important points you just mentioned, but that one at the end, you know, because like how often it is that folks, including myself, we come across something that captivates us, and one of the first impulses we have is to pull out our glowing disc and bring out our, you know, portable camera and take a photo of it or video it and look at it through the screen, and not just like be arrested by the honest connection of what's there in that moment. We have to have this in between. So totally agree. This compulsion to capture everything that's beautiful is really, I think it pains our hearts and our souls in a deep way that we don't understand, and certainly the heart and soul of the world. So thank you for that point. And I love that you brought up ritual, because it's so, you brought up ritual and you connected rhythm to it too. And I think that by incorporating ritual into our day-to-day, that we learn how to attend to rhythm on a daily basis that allows us to more naturally relate to the larger rhythms of the living world. So and you know, ritual is difficult for some people. I do counsel work with folks, and I invite them to engage in ritual, because I think it's absolutely essential. And oftentimes there's kind of an apprehensiveness that ritual, for some folks, for many folks, I think, has gotten this kind of bad rap, so to say, because of religion and the formalized ritual of religion. And I'm not saying that's bad, but there is like a distaste that many folks have because of its connection to that. But I think that there's this essential need for us to reclaim ritual. And for me, ritual isn't about formality or performance. It's a way of slowing down and listening to the heart, the soul, embedding ourselves more fully into the natural flow of the environment, and to come into a reciprocal relationship And I think it's also how we mark, or it's how we come into deeper relationship with the unseen, and maybe too how we mark in minor and major moments, invisible turns of life or thresholds that don't, that maybe aren't so clear if we don't purposely attend to them. Sometimes it's as simple as lighting a candle at dawn, or brewing a tea or coffee and sitting down with it and feeling the warmth, or walking the same trail in the forest that you know and that you love. Um, and so when I move in these kinds of gestures with real intention and care, they become more than just habitual. And I think that's important, that ritual isn't habitual necessarily, that there's more conscious awareness and creativity and artistry involved. In that way, they're like living prayers, ways of staying in relationship with the mystery, especially in a world that moves so fast and prizes the measurable. Ritual is what brings us back into a more tender receptivity with the sacred. And so, yeah, I'm just so glad you brought that up in connection to apprehending and participating in beauty and the making of art. We're kind of coming to the end here, and I'm so curious to know about, and we're getting kind of hints to this conversation, but what's really inspiring you these days? And I'm reminded of how inspiration is connected to this old idea of breathing in the soul of life. To be inspired is to take in the spirit of life. And so I'm just so curious to know what you're breathing in and what's giving you life lately, that's motivating you to continue on your path of artistry in your unique way.
Thank you. So I actually like to have many things that inspire me. So I really enjoy the diversity of it. I'm very, very inspired by plant spirits. For me, it's something that just warms my heart, and but not only, it's just so profound for me, deep, the connection with plant spirit. And I don't mean it as in like plant medicine, that, you know, like ayahuasca, or I'm not talking only about that aspect. I'm really talking about I love doing infusions, and I love just picking plants and making herbal infusions and listening to that. And I do that throughout the day, and it changes. And so for me, like right now, what's most alive is today, and it's been a few days that we had red roses in the garden, and they're like the ancient red roses. And oh, they're so inspiring me. Like, it's so wonderful. Like, and also we're having calendula and mugwort that are finally getting into full existence. And so I'm so grateful to them, because I've been really getting very inspired by them. And I just want to shout it out, because for me, mugwort is just like one of the biggest teachers ever, and rose, and so for me, it's a lot, this connection with those plants and the way I can learn from them, and throughout the years, and what I can learn about myself. And that's something that really inspires me. I'm really doing it as a as a conscious action, as you're saying, as a ritual, sitting down and listening where it's moving into your body and how is it feeling and where is it talking to you. And then something that is really inspiring me at the moment is the birds chirping and the silence. I love the birds in this season. It's just something, they are having the most wonderful conversation. Like, they are so happy the whole day, and they're having like these huge conversations across like the whole like I don't know, like the whole zone, and I love it. I listen to them and I just stay there and try to understand, you know, their way of conversating and their language and the way they're responding to one another. So that's very inspiring, because it's also inspiring me to listen to my voice and to that joyful aspect of the voice, and like how the birds are never afraid to just sing and be happy and express themselves. And something is also, and then people like having conversation like this one, or listening to very inspiring conversations, and that's the human side, and it's so wonderful to get into the wisdom of the human. That's something that it's kind of alive, but a lot of things I would say, and yeah, that's the main ones.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought the plant nations in, because they really are some of the OG artists in the truest, wildest sense. They're consistently and oftentimes quietly creating just incredible shapes and forms and colors and textures and scents. And of course, they compose landscapes with incredible grace. They paint fields with waves of goldenrod, or the rushing blush of poppies. Each leaf, each bloom, each curling tendril is some kind of a brush stroke of the expression and adaptation that is each unique plant and species. And of course, they collaborate with light and soil and water and wind, responding in real time to their environment to generate phytochemicals and medicines that are often completely innovative and novel, that they then spread and share with each other in order to care for their environment. And yeah, so I'm consistently, like I said, I live amidst a forest, and I mean, right outside my window here is this massive ficus tree, this strangler fig. There's many of them along this ridge here, and I'm up in the canopy of it, and just looking out my window and seeing its aliveness and its beauty. And right now it's always subtly dancing with the wind, you know, and so in that way it's a dancer and expressing its art through that. But also, because it's this massive old tree, there are so many other beings living within it. I see so many birds and hear their songs, and so in that way they're orchestrating bird song. I see all this lichen and moss and these other air plants that have taken residence in the canopy, and there's squirrels, and so there's something to that too, right? Like, if you aren't cultivating community through your art, then it's probably not art. I don't know. What do you think about that? Maybe that's the last topic we can discuss. That's just emerging for me. Like, there has to be a communal element to it. Like, of course, it's you're having your own experience of it, right? And you have your unique expression. Like one time I heard, and by the way, I'm not for sure on this. I'm so down. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say, and I'm down to shift my perception. But I heard it once that a poem isn't a poem until it's shared. I don't know if I fully agree, but maybe it doesn't have to be shared with a person, right? Like if you are always just writing your poetry and keeping it in a little notebook and never speaking it aloud. Like when I speak my poetry aloud, that's when I feel like it has life, you know? When it's just in my notebook in symbols, it's like, cool. The livingness of it comes through its communion with my vocal cords and my energy and expression. So, and of course, whenever I'm reciting a poem out loud, there are many energies, beings, animacies there to receive it. So yeah, I wonder what you have to say about that.
I love that, and I celebrate that. And I'm sure the ecosystem around you also really, appreciates it. And I think it is, for me, art is an offering. So I always say, that's like the deepest I feel is art is the biggest gift. This vision or whatever wants to express through me is the biggest gift I have received ever. Because it's a blessing to be able to see what wants to be seen through me. Thank you for this beautiful gift. And it becomes alive when I offer it, when I share it, when I give it back. Because it's not mine. It's never been mine. So it's not meant to be kept prisoner somewhere. It's meant to be shared. It's meant to be offered. So, and yes, we can offer it to anything. We can offer it to the human or the non-human. That's our choice. And I don't think art has to be necessarily super famous. I don't think that's about it. But I think it is an offering. It is that receiving, because we receive and we give, and that's what Earth teaches us. It's the most incredible generosity.
Yeah.
Earth doesn't keep anything for herself. So in the same way, we should learn from that and be just, what is beauty? Beauty is, okay, it flowers through you and then, it's given and decays and then it starts again, and it's this whole regenerative cycle. And so the more we give, the more we receive, and then it's this beautiful sharing, and I think it's so important. I think it is the ultimate place. How I can close this, it's like art is nature expressing herself through us. And so it's about finding that alignment and finding that alignment, and really what is the place where we are aligned with nature and nature aligns with us, and how can we make it into a continuous dialogue and reciprocity and community and foster that beauty. Yeah, we never exist alone, because if you weren't looking at me, I wouldn't exist in a certain way. So I am here because you are here. And this is true with everything. We don't exist as separate. We exist because of one another. We exist because, and I mean it with everything, even with the plants behind me, like we are one. And we exist because of each other. We are a mirror of each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I said plants are some of the OG artists, but of course, Earth is the OG artist of this biosphere. And the fact that we have the capacity to apprehend beauty and to be arrested by it, the fact that Earth has imbued us with this propensity to be taken out of ourselves and to be awestruck by just what's alive, just what's here, what's been created, generated over millions of years. Like that is such a gift. That is such a gift. And I love when you said Earth is so generous, she gives everything away. And that gift of the capacity to apprehend and participate in beauty is one of the most important I'm seeing and feeling right now. And for us to not actively engage in some kind of reciprocal ritual practice of tending and generating and sharing and amplifying beauty, it seems like we don't honor the specialness of what it means to be alive and to be human. Yeah. So thank you for all that you do in expressing and creating and amplifying beauty. It's a great gift to the web of life and to humanity. And I highly recommend people go and check out your work, your art. It's very diverse. It's very fascinating. It's incredible and it's beautiful. So let people know how they can do that. How can they seek your art out?
So thank you so much for the space and the opportunity to have this dialogue. I really, really appreciate it. And equally, I really respect your work. So it's a beautiful conversation. Yeah, so my work can be found on my website mainly, or on Instagram. And the website is bodhishola.art, which is BODHISHOLA.art. And you can find more about my process and some personal projects, as well as some more commission projects. And then there is a lot that will come up in the next years that is just preparing and getting ready. And of course, I'm always super, super, super happy to connect with anyone who has questions, who wants to share something. So please reach out also on Instagram, or reach out to whatever feels comfortable for you, or email. And I'm always very happy to exchange and also to create collaborations. Like I feel like I don't want to categorize myself as like I do only this. So I'm always very happy when people come and say like, oh, we like what you're doing and we would love to explore ways of collaborating. Just knowing that I'm very open to that, because I enjoy the conversation. I enjoy that it's a co-creation and it's not only me deciding. So it's like it's done together.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a podcast coming out. And
podcast coming out. Yes.
Yeah. We can tune into that.
Yes, which is called Invisible Threads of Kindness, and which is about those beautiful messengers of life and love that always carry us and guide us through this journey. And I'm very, very grateful to the conversations that we're having. It's very, it's just very heartwarming. And yes, and I also do creative guidance if someone feels called to learn more about how to dive into their own kind of practice so that it becomes more long-term, it becomes connected to earth. How can I make my practice become more cyclical, see it from a spiritual perspective, see it from a perspective that just is like recreating and regenerative and relational. So I'm always happy to guide people, or just to have conversations and see how I can be of help through that.
Wonderful. Bodhi, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you.